Yo, this is Alup. You got pretty big balls to watch Thorin's YouTube videos.
So this episode is obviously brought to you, like a lot of the content on my channel, by the delicious Energy Formula Gamer Subs, which you can get 10% off everything on their store using the code Thorin, Thorin, easy to remember, easy to use, easy to save with. Get 10% off anything on the store. Waifu Cops, Gamer Subs flavors, caffeine-free Gamer Subs, AFK, which is a special sleep blend that helps promote sleep, gamer teas, all sorts of apparel, etc. Here's a new flavor they've got called Nile Nectar. That's one that's actually a mixture of like kiwi with nectarine, which is quite an unusual pairing. It's just a little bit like some of the peach ones, but I would say it doesn't have as harsh like an aftertaste. It's quite a subdued flavor. So I actually find this is quite a nice one to just chill and enjoy, like a water flavor with a nice blend on top, but it's nothing crazy overpowering, making smoke come out your ears. Obviously, it has all the usual Gamer Subs effects. Right. Obviously, we all know how Reddit works, don't we? So what Reddit does is anytime Thorin posts, or more importantly, Thorin doesn't post on Reddit for years and years at this point in time. What happens is when Thorin is mentioned on Reddit, the people on Reddit go, well, my default position is I'm the opposite of whatever Thorin says or does or thinks. So whatever he says, it doesn't matter what it is, I'll find a way that it's wrong. So the joke would be, if I said on Twitter, if I just tweeted 2 + 2 = 4, people on Reddit would either say, well, of course you'd say it's equals 4. I'd personally say it's 8 divided by 2, wanker. They'd either do that, so go out of their way to find a way to disagree, even though they actually in spirit completely disagree and know I am right. Or they just go, well, yeah, but in an alternate universe where mathematics works differently, it could be 5, couldn't it, prick? And you'd be like, oh, the last one is, when their brain has nothing else to go for, they're just searching cognitive dissonance for anything, they just go, why are you saying that though? Or what's the relevant? Why are you bringing? So that's more important. So their brain would just find a way to disagree. So anyway, you're going to need to know that going into this thread, because when you actually, as I'll do as usual, just explain what I said, the whole thread's mental. Like, it's actually just a bunch of mentally ill people just making up positions, intentionally pretending they didn't read things to get really mad at things I never said, never had as an opinion, and have never expressed, just to be mad and say I'm wrong. And then even make it like, well, it's obvious he'd be wrong like this as usual. So this is a classic. Get ready. This is one of the all-time classic threads. So let's first of all look at my comments. Look at my incredibly stupid, brain-dead comments. Because remember, to understand how Reddit works, you have to also accept the baseline premise that even though I've professionally worked, I've been having people put money into my bank account since 2001 to professionally work covering a load of esports games, but particularly Counter-Strike from the beginning. Even though I've done that, the baseline assumption is 23 years in, I know absolutely nothing. My level in terms of like playing and knowledge of the game is among the lowest, so maybe gold Nova even. I can never even ever learn anything, which is a crazy angle, by the way, when you consider I have actually outed myself as autistic. It's a mad angle to take. But I'm such a cretin, I can never learn anything. And so as a result, like, I'm actually someone where everything I say is just wrong. And if you can twist it or reduce it to be stupider, that's actually accurate, because I'm just incredibly stupid and dense. And nothing I say makes sense, because I'm just an idiot, and that's Thorin being Thorin. So let's get into it with that mindset, right? So let's read my post. I said, I already fucked up at the beginning because I actually framed what I was about to say and made it impossible for all the things they said to be accurate on point. But don't worry, their brains will open this up, read it, and then just go, doesn't say like anything to me, and delete it all from their brain and reduce the whole thing. Get ready, see this entire 3 tweets with all these sentences or context for it. It's all going to be reduced to, I personally just don't like games being at 10 a.m. and that's too early for me. So basically, I'm Stewie 2K. I'm Stewie 2K, a pro player who didn't want himself at the venue to have to get up early and play games at 10 in the morning. That's all I've said there. Is I've just said I don't like games at 10 in the morning. That's all these tweets say. Now, I'll just read it, and me and you, people who are readers, we'll just see that's not what I've said and then get into the thread. So it goes, I can handle early start times in LOL, pause. So we're starting right out the gate. Remember this for the rest of the thread. The thread starts by me saying I can handle early start times for esports tournaments. Now that we understand that, it's going to be really important if people claim the whole thing I'm saying is never have early start times, apropos of nothing. So I can handle early start times in LOL, League of Legends. Get ready for the context. When there are big events in Asia, so just like right now, a massive event, the Major in CS2 is taking place in Asia. So let's see what's similar here. So far, we've got an early start time for an event, just like this Major, but it's in League of Legends, not CS2, and it's a big event in Asia, in this case in China, because you often have them in China and Korea in League of Legends. So far it's the same. What's going to be different? So I can handle early start times in LOL when there are big events in Asia, because China and Korea have enormous viewership in that game. Pause. I've given the context. I think it's totally fine to have an early start time for a massive event that's held in Asia. In League of Legends, because in League of Legends, essentially, if you don't know, Western viewership is smaller than the viewership of China and Korea. So actually, you would be tailoring the event, get ready for the key concept, and clearly making obvious as the context from tweet one, is the event would in that scenario be actually playing to its largest viewer base. It will get the most views by being on early for me in Europe, but the ideal time in Asia, because that's where the viewership is. So then I say about the CS Major, this is just bad scheduling for fans that don't exist, because they're doing that thing we're going to get into, the cargo cult thing of like, but if you just have an event in Asia, that'll make there be loads of fans in Asia. Like, no, it won't make almost any fans in Asia. It won't make almost anyone play. I mean, how would the mechanism even work? Oh, I'm walking along as a Chinese guy. Ni hao. Oh, have you heard there's a CS Major going on in Czechs, Shanghai? We're in Shanghai. It's giant, you fucking lunatic. That conversation will never happen. Let's imagine it did, though. Hey, did you know there's a Counter-Strike Major going on in Shanghai? No, I don't know what Counter-Strike is, or follow the game. Oh, okay, end of conversation. Bye. So there's one way it could go. Here's another way it could go. There's a Counter-Strike tournament going on. Oh, really? Let's try watching it. I don't really understand this game. It's a bit complicated. Oh, well, I don't think I'll change my entire life, gaming habits and or the distribution methods of my country, and suddenly get this game at a PC bang and start playing it in the PC cafe. I think I'll continue on as normal, because this isn't how life works. That's how a cargo cult works. Then lastly, you could do the one of like, let's say they even watched the game. Why would they then go and play it? Why would they then go and play it in a way that's meaningful, that ever contributes to the money? And why would they ever then become a regular viewer of events? Nothing about it makes any sense. Nothing about it makes sense. Lastly, you could just throw in there, if they can't watch events normally on European and North American times because of when the schedule is, how's it going to help having one tournament in China and then all the other tournaments take place in Europe and North America? Biologically, they're not going to be able to watch. So again, we're not actually scheduling and saying, well, we're gambling here, Thorin, to build new fans. We're not. We're not going to make any more. We're just getting way less fans in the West, which we're guaranteed. All we're doing is saying, but if there were those fans, then we'd be ideally scheduling for it, but we're not. So I'm making the point that you're not doing it. So you're scheduling for fans that don't exist, pissing off the fans that do exist and want to watch. Think how many people in North America and Europe want to watch these matches. But are you ready? I don't even say it here until later. I say the dreaded 10 a.m. 10 a.m.'s the late game. I put there for the final later, that's 10 a.m. That's when the last match was scheduled. The first games were at like 4 in the morning, European time. That means, by the way, if you're on like the West Coast, it's like a 10 p.m. start time. So you have to stay up for that one and have a hard time working. If you're in Europe, you're just fucked. 4 a.m. is by definition the worst time. You can't stay up and watch it, then you won't get any sleep before work. You can't get up and do it, or you'd have to go to bed at like 8 p.m. or something insane, and no one would be able to move their schedule around like that. So anyway, I think I've made a very good point just in the opening salvo there. Then I say, the best of 3 major final, because obviously it's the match you want to have the most viewership, starting at 10 a.m. Central European time is utterly absurd. Because if you don't know, obviously you'll probably have a show match that day, but that is the only match that day, and it's only a best of 3. So logically, you'd think for the best of 3, you could at least move that around, right? It's the only match. You could just arrange the day so that starts at, like 2 p.m. Remember, it's only a best of 3. It'll only be 3 or 4 hours max. I'd say March 12, so it'd probably be more like 3 hours. So logically, if you started it at like 2 p.m. Central European time, isn't that going to be something like 10 p.m. or something Chinese time. It's not the end of the world to start a match then. Maybe 1 p.m., but 10 a.m. is still really early. Now, yes, if it's really important, you'd get up and watch it. I will just throw this out there. Are we also just going to ignore all sports culture? So when I say you watch the game at 10 a.m., does anyone really want to get out of bed and then 5 minutes before 10 a.m., then roll over to their PC, and then just start watching a match all wrecked and all fucked up in the sleep? No, you want to be sat in your couch, you want to have snacks and drinks, and you want to fucking think about the game before, watch a pre-show, and then get hyped for it all, and then you get ready for the match. It's the final of the major. Instead, you're treating it like it's the first boss of the day that you've got to catch up while you're all wrecked, like, my belly slow woken up, don't talk to me until I've had my coffee, aka Game of Subs. Like, that's a ridiculous premise anyway. So then I even say, shooting yourself in the foot with a shotgun. And then on the last one, I just say as extra information, miss me with the commie bullshit where you pretend everyone is owed equal representation in the scheduling. Spoiler, they not only do not, in fact, miss me with the commie bullshit, they claim it isn't commie, then absolutely double-footed dive into exactly that angle of equal representation and say all the stupid things like, well, most of the events in the year are ideal for Europe, so maybe you could just for once be the one that doesn't. So literally what I'm literally just saying right now, I've made a whole argument. The first argument is about the fact that I understand in League, I'm the minor viewer. I'm the one that's not as important. So when you can maximize viewership because the event's in that country, it makes perfect sense to. I'm totally willing to accept that because I understand I'm not the person you're trying to cater to for the viewership and the sponsorship and the revenue. I understand I'm not the one that the event's for in that scenario. I've made it very clear I understand that concept. But you're going to see the whole thread is people pretending that's not what I said. Then I've just said the final starting then is even more absurd. Like, it's the most important match. I think you're just shooting yourself in the foot with a shotgun because you're never going to get the viewership. And then lastly, I've said, and don't just come with some angle of like, we all have to have like equal time or they deserve it because we've had this other. I say there at the last, what did I say in the last two sentences? This nails the whole thing and makes it impossible for this thread to exist with all a bunch of spurious nonsense arguments. I say, you schedule for the biggest audience. Now notice, as I've explained there, you schedule for the biggest audience, but combined with tweet one, I acknowledge that if I'm not in the biggest audience, I understand I won't be catered to. So in League, I totally get that. But what's bizarre is, and I'm not in League going, hey, come on now, even though we get fuck all viewership, like, what about Americans though? Like, can't we have an event for what? I don't do that. I wouldn't actually be the dickhead on Reddit. So then I just say, this is an eyeball spot / business. Because if you don't know, merch makes an absolute drop in the bucket, fuck all. People paying for tickets and features, that makes a drop in the bucket, absolutely fuck all. There is so little money in esports that the majority of the rev comes from eyeballs, which are then translated into sponsorship dollars. So actually, for everyone involved with the major, except maybe a Chinese team, who's only like one or two even around, by the way, everyone else, it is actually worse if the major has less viewership. The teams playing get less eyeballs on what they're doing. It won't matter that they go to the playoffs. The event organizer gets less eyeballs. Valve gets everyone. Twitch gets less eyeballs. It doesn't help. Oh yeah, by the way, when you also say about viewership, remember, how would it even help Twitch, for example, that the viewership's in China? It's not going to be on fucking Twitch, is it? It'll be like Bilibili or some fucking other website that you don't even know because, again, China has its own internet, you dunce. I don't know how you've just found that out now. So in light of all that, and we'll keep that up because we'll refer back if we need to. Let's go through so now we've just established all of the context. Let's see what the masterminds on Reddit had to say about this one, eh? Imagine it must be like a very varied thing. Some people agree, some people... No, it's just everyone says I'm a moron, basically. So this person says, Thorin on the Shanghai major scheduling. And by the way, fair play. They have screenshotted all three tweets, not just one tweet, and then people just didn't get a chance to read the others. So top comment, 900 points. He's right. To quote Marx himself, the theory of communism may be summed up in one sentence. Abolish all private property. Oh, and schedule games of Counter-Strike at times that are inconvenient for EU viewers. Right. That's obviously supposed to be a joke, but it's not even funny because it doesn't work as a joke. Because notice, he is acting like when I said, miss me with the commie bullshit, the rest of the sentence didn't exist. Commie bullshit is scheduling events in other regions at times that are inconvenient for me. That's what I was saying was commie bullshit in this tweet. It doesn't work at all, of course, does it? Because the commie bullshit is the rest of the sentence. That's why the sentence didn't stop with a full stop, did it? It goes, commie bullshit, where you pretend everyone is owed equal representation in the scheduling. Now, if you don't know, communism is about the idea of like class struggle and the notion of like, what are we owed? And do I have like a right and a say in what happens here and what is fair and what should we do to change society? Now, the notion, by the way, that the only way you can ever talk about communism as a concept or as a theory is literally what Karl Marx wrote and was critiquing like liberalism and capitalism back in like what, the 19th century. That's the only scenario. So by the way, 99.99999% of modern theses and academic papers that are about communism in the modern day wouldn't apply because it wouldn't be for the Communist Manifesto. Of course, that's an utterly absurd straw man they've just created to ignore all the great points I made and with 900 points just say the stupidest possible reply guy thing like, so yeah, communism is just when events are scheduled when it's inconvenient for Thorin and the EU. It's like, and everyone on the whole subreddit, like a bunch of seals, like the greatest shit of all time. Like, oh, fucking, insane, 900 points. Oh, he's nailed, got him. That's the world. If we're starting off like that, where the fuck do you think we're going? So then this person goes, I think Thorin has a legit point, but it'll never end there. That'll never just be a full stop and then people have to discuss it. He goes, but this made me giggle. So then this person goes, I don't know. It's Thorin being Thorin, says someone as Reddit being Reddit goes out of their way to completely, even though the words are on the screen, pretend they don't exist or they mean something different or even better, they mean the opposite of what they say. As an NA, let's see how, remember, Thorin being Thorin, so let's see Reddit being Reddit, how he now addresses my comment and what framing I've put around it. As an NA fan, EU major times often fall during work hours. Pause. Well, that'd be irrelevant in the framing I put unless NA was the major viewing capital for Counter-Strike, and by not putting it after work hours in NA, they were actually, what was the thing again? Scheduling for fans who don't exist and pissing off the fans that do and want to watch, except we all know viewership from NA tiny for Counter-Strike in comparison to Europe. So already an insanely disingenuous comment out the gate. In fact, we even know for the Americas, it wouldn't even be North American viewership, would it? It would be fucking South American viewership, which are the very different time zone, by the way, more comparable to European time, if you don't know. That would be the major viewership one, right? So already, what he's done is gone, yeah, I mean, I guess I understand what he's saying, but it's just Thorin being Thorin. You know, just like he's saying about how he doesn't like it because he's an EU fan and the times are wrong, which is not my point. I started out by saying I understand when I'm the one who has the bad scheduling, if there's more viewership elsewhere. I made the whole post about the business. I explained in the post the mechanism of how esports generates money and why viewership is essential to that, and why, obviously, to maximize viewership, you would play to the guaranteed viewership instead of a fantasy imagined viewership, which even you'd admit isn't there now and one day might be there. So he's already failed immediately. Then he goes, I am thankful that games are starting at 9 p.m. That actually works out well for me personally. So he's ignored everything I've said about why the scheduling is a problem, for the whole total viewership it's a problem, for the industry it's a problem, and he really has just made it, well, actually, for me personally, this is good this time, and normally, as an NA fan, it isn't that good, so he's done the commie bullshit of, like, implying there would ever be a reason it would be equal. Do you want to know, spoiler, the reason why it's not great for NA? The events are in Europe, you dumb fuck. The tournament organisers are in Europe, you dumb fuck. They are hosting them in their own region. If they held them in NA, obviously they'd have them at NA times to some degree, right? But you know what they wouldn't do if they had them in NA? Put them for the perfect times for NA and the worst times for EU. They'd try in the NA schedule to make it as close as they could to make it good for EU. Do you know why? Because then they'd maximise viewership. So the exact premise that I was explaining earlier, and you're not doing by explaining that you like this current approach, you're just ignoring all that and saying, fuck everyone else. By the way, even though I wasn't saying, just for me personally, I don't like that the games are this early, that's all. But by his logic, I should be totally fine to say that. Oh, but wait, I'm not allowed to say that because there are other events at my time. So again, let's just always ignore context. The second context bleeds in. Ignore it because that's just some stupid, like, nonsense Thorin and evil right-wing people use to try and trick you with things like logic and reason. So the hope is obviously to expand the game's audience in Asia, and that's not going to happen without giving them a chance to watch the games. Guys, the reason Counter-Strike isn't giant in Asia, genius person, 374 points, I like lizards 24, is just because we didn't have majors in their time zone. Now, what's insane about that premise is, if this was real, you'd never go straight to the biggest event of the year is in their region. You'd start with smaller events, you'd test it, you'd actually have a direct feedback loop where you'd see viewership grow and in certain ways. Then as it grew, it'd get to the point where it was actually like burgeoning on the point that you could actually give them a major and it'd probably break through and push through and get a big amount, and then it would make sense. Why would you need to go straight from the top? That's how you know this is a mixture of magical thinking and cargo cultism. The logic goes, the reason there are giant audiences in continents and regions is because they already have giant events there, and it's the opposite way around. See, for me, giant events go to areas that have massive viewership, because that's why you'd want to hold the event. It's the other way around. It turns out there was no viewership in Europe till people put majors on. You know, North America, just when he started doing majors there, all the viewership just came out of nowhere. That's cargo cultism. By this person's logic, if you want there to be a specific supermarket brand in China, don't go over there and find out, do Chinese people use supermarkets? What sort of areas do you put supermarkets for traffic? What sort of foot traffic would there be? What sort of products and deals? All you do is go to China and build a building just like it looks like in your area of the supermarket and make the same colour scheme, the same types of, have all the same foods there, put on the outside like Morrison's or, I don't know what you'd have in America, would it even be fucking Whole Foods? And if you just do that, it will instantly have the same exact type of success one day as that exact same supermarket in your town, because you've done all the things, right? You've done all the secondary and third order things. So if you build it, they will come. That's what that movie was about, right? That's how the world works. So that's called cargo cultism. Like, you haven't identified the mechanism that makes Asian people play Counter-Strike and then watch Counter-Strike. Because there's another thing. Even though you can watch the game without playing it, let's be real. There's not many people who've never played a lick of Counter-Strike are going to watch Counter-Strike tournaments, are they? That's just total plot. And miss me with, but I know someone who did, but I had a friend who did. You don't have hundreds of thousands, though, which is what we're losing from European and North American viewership, by the way. So that's an absolutely nonsense comment. So the notion is, notice he doesn't even say this will expand the games. He just goes, the hope. So we're now scheduling majors not for the current largest viewership to actually make the industry function. We're now scheduling majors to hope that it expands the game's audience. No mechanisms given, no reasons given, no path charted, no waypoints along the path, markers to know that it's working, no feedback, no even way to ever know. By the way, that logic means logically you could just run a 500 next majors in Asia. Let's do it. You know what, guys? Now it doesn't make sense to have majors in Europe anymore, because what we should do is expand to the whole world. What we should do is the next majors literally should be in Africa. Then after that, we'll have them in Australia. Then we'll go Antarctica. We'll do some in Iceland. We'll just keep going. We'll have them in Western Canada. We're just going to do it all, guys. Until we've done Japan, until we've done all these, we haven't tapped the whole world market. So it would be stupid to actually go and guarantee viewership like the industry needs and all the viewers who want to watch the game live. Instead, what we should do is gamble on the hope we can expand the game's audience, which, remember, was nothing to do ever with my tweet, nor would it be the concern of a random Redditor. Again, I can at least understand this dickhead. He just wants the games when he wants to watch them. This person is arguing potentially against his own interests. By his logic, as long as there's a hope it could actually build the viewership, have them anywhere. Have them any time. You know what? If you build a time machine, go back in fucking time and have a major without us. Maybe you can make viewership like back in the 1800s for fucking CS. Maybe you can do it. Take a portable generator with you. You can show them the game. Maybe tell them, hey, listen, we'll go back to the 1980s and tell them, you know what? You're only fucking 12 now, so you'll be alive later when the CS majors. Like, just hold on to this memory of how great this major was, and in like 30 years, just watch it when it starts up. There you go, we'll build viewership in the past. That's even more genius. Get ahead of the problem. So then this person tries to be sane and goes, you don't need to start games at 9 a.m. for that, 10 a.m. for that. 12 or 13 would be enough. Nobody says they should start the day at 4 p.m. Yeah, notice that we've never expanded. Like, what would my ideal one be? Because it was never about that in the tweet, was it? But they're all acting like I've just said it just can't be at 10. Shanghai limits large events to conclude by 10:30 p.m. Okay, by the way, that's a very interesting idea. If that's indeed true, that would be a good reason why they can't have the events there. Now, obviously, this guy's nailed it, hasn't he? Then maybe Shanghai wasn't a good location to hold a big international event. This person's a moron. It was, though. The turnout is great. People attending events don't make you profit. So that doesn't make sense what he just said there. He's an idiot. So yeah, let's keep scrolling down. We don't need to read this shit about China. Let's just see some more shit. Ignoring all that about scheduling for a bigger fan base, ... 281 points for saying, if I just ignore the entire context of what you're saying, here's how I can make it very stupid. So if we just ignore all the context, Thorin, is waking up at 10 to watch something you care about that bad? Now, did my post say waking up at 10 to watch CS is bad because I don't like it? So what relevance would what he's saying... So, are you ready? I've basically explained, like, the major viewership is in Europe. So by holding events in Asia, you are going to get less viewers by trying to get viewers that don't exist currently, and you're pissing off the ones that do and would have watched the game. His comment becomes, but is it that big a deal to wake up at 10 a.m.? That's a complete non sequitur. You understand that, right? Like, by his logic, my mistake is this. Instead of saying this, which would fix everything and make more viewership capable for the major, me and him need to personally go and find every European who isn't going to get up and watch the game and go, is it that big a deal to wake up? And have a one-on-one conversation with them and convince them all. What are we even talking about at this point in time, by the way? What does my post have to do with getting up at 10 a.m.? It never says anything about it. It never says it's too early, I'm tired. I put it solely about viewership and how the industry operates, and viewership is the number one factor. So let's keep going. I'm from Asia, and I stayed up to 3 a.m. to watch ESL Pro League matches. What would that have to do with the viewership of this major? And increasing it to the largest amount, and how the current scheduling means it won't happen. Right? The biggest viewership's in Europe, and you're not letting them watch it. Yeah, but I'm in Asia, and I sometimes have games that are really bad for me, even though, again, mine's an incredibly small viewership region, hence the context of this entire thread. But hey, I didn't get the same as you. Glad you can enjoy it. Thorin is just a narcissist, self-entitled prick. Yeah, by explaining at the beginning that I am totally willing to sacrifice being able to watch the matches live in the biggest League of Legends tournament of the year when it takes place in Asia, when I'm the minority viewer, and saying, but for CS, where it's the other way around, it doesn't make sense to schedule this way because you get less viewership. Therefore, I'm actually saying I mainly care about everyone getting to watch. That's me just being a narcissist who's obsessed with myself and my own self-image and being entitled. Because it's very entitled to go, oh, and my bad, am I actually the one who's not important here? Well, then you go ahead and do it best for you. That's what an entitled prick, a narcissistic entitled prick would say. Again, notice you have to just delete the entire first tweet because it's not convenient. Now, you would say you'd have to be pretty mentally ill to hate someone, and you have to constantly delete what they said or change the context in order to continue hating them. Surely if you hate them, which is what they do and what they say is fucked up, you wouldn't need to invent it, would you? Oh, no, you would if you're mentally ill. So, similarly, are you ready? Not gonna lie, seeing him complain about waking up, I've never said anything about what time I wake up or whether this is inconvenient for me waking up. I've said for the viewership, that is the main viewership of the game, this is bad. Now, that is inarguably a fact. You can see it on ES charts. You will see it at the end of the major when you see the max viewership and the total concurrence, etc., and the peak viewership. It's just a fact. But apparently all I said was I hate having to wake up at 10 a.m. And are you ready? That is insane to me. My whole post was about when the time zone is better, makes the most sense to max. But no, what all I said was, it's insane having to wake up at 10 a.m. I shouldn't have to wake up. Me, Thorin, having to wake up at 10 a.m. Do you know what's hilarious, by the way? I sometimes wake up at 10 and 11 a.m. to do talk shows. You don't know that, though, because you're fucking dunces upvoting each other on Reddit over absolutely imagined things and then taking imagined things and building on them. It's crazy. So it's insane that I can't wake up at 10. It's crazy seeing how many people want the whole scene/world to revolve around them this week. Right, my tweet was, I don't want to wake up at 10 a.m. I want the whole world to revolve around me. That is it. No more context, boys. Send tweet. And you know what? Man, they have destroyed that straw man. Tell you what, that fucking straw man went up like the Wicker Man at the end of that film, didn't it? Fucking hell. Tell you what, if I'd have been in there, I'd be dead. Thankfully, I wasn't, because I never said any of that shit. They completely imagined it all. So luckily for me, I'm all good, right? This guy tries to reason with him. The viewership's insanely low. So what's an idiot going to say presented with the real context that the viewership's very low? It's going to be low no matter if you push it back an hour or not. Pause. Is that true? Right. I notice he's already said we're only allowed to push it back an hour or not. So he's already created an imaginary stipulation that could only ever be pushed 1 or 2. Are you ready? Crazy concept. Don't hold it there. Just hold it in a good region in the first place. But no, he's invented 2 stipulations that no one else has set, which is 1, it can only ever be here, even though my whole post is implying don't pick Asia to have it there and then schedule like this. And then secondly, if you were to try and change that schedule, the only option is push it forwards an hour or back an hour. And then, even though this absolutely beggars belief, surely almost certainly make it an hour later would give it more European viewership. Even though that almost certainly would actually have an effect. And you'll probably see that, I'd imagine, if you looked up the actual difference between the late game, the 10 a.m. one, and the 7 a.m. one or the 4 a.m. one. But no, he's just going to ignore that and then have the gall in the next 4 words or whatever to talk about reality. That's just the reality. It's not at all. You've completely had to make a fantasy artificial scenario where without that guy ever even saying anything, you made it so you can't change the location and the schedule can only move back and forwards 1 hour. That's what you had to do to make your fucked thing make sense even to you, and it makes no sense to us. That's just the reality in having an event in the least popular time zones for CS. He's actually nailed what I've said in the post, that this is the least popular time to show CS. And what are we showing for that time zone? The biggest event of the year. It's almost like he's backing into my point. But wait a minute. He's agreeing with me that we're having the biggest event of the year in the least popular time zone, and even pushing it forward or back an hour, if we accept his premise, wouldn't do anything. But it's insane to suggest that scheduling is how it takes place, because that's when he's just talking about scheduling, what I was talking about. He then doesn't make it that I'm talking about scheduling. He makes it that I'm just complaining about waking up at 10 a.m. Just me personally. Great, innit? And then he even has the gall to cite stats from Sydney, which, by the way, is why I don't think they should have an event in Australia for CS majors. This person tries to explain. He's not really complaining about waking up at 10 a.m., is he? It's just a terrible time to watch for the main audience. Now, you might think, well, that's a bit of a white pill, Thorin. Some people can read. Yeah, he's the one with 10 points. The dickheads making fun of me for what I didn't say have hundreds of points, and hundreds of over here. Great shit, innit? It's great shit. This guy nails it. Intentionally misconstruing what's being said. By the way, don't give these people the benefit of the doubt. They're not actually just brain dead, by the way. They can read. Their brain is telling them, because of their ego, I have to never agree with Thorin on anything. So even if he says a fact, I have to change the fact or the context of the fact so it no longer makes sense. Ideally, so it's actually just wrong or stupid, then I will address it. Because that process has to happen before their brain will let them just respond, they end up fucked up like this. So he goes, intentionally misconstruing what's being said just to disagree with someone with something obviously true is the mid-wit way. When it comes out post-major that viewership was lower this major and they made less money as a result of all these dummies, all these dummies will be saying, well, of course, that's what happens when you don't schedule for the actual viewer base. Everyone knew this. He's nailed even the style. Remember, they always go, everyone knows that, but then when you point out, well, let's change it. Well, I would be there. Well, we all know that. Idiots mistake hearing for knowing. They mistake seeing for understanding. They are superficial NPCs in this world. And they'll just pretend they weren't epic clapback, dunking on evil orange man, small hand, Thorin, epic star. He's nailed this. The joke is, this could be my burner account if I actually posted on a burner on Reddit. You can just look at the view account on YouTube/Twitch right now. It's lower compared to usual because most people who watch Counter-Strike are Europeans and they are all sleeping for the first 2 series. Then at work/school for the third ones on weekdays. On the weekend, maybe you can catch the third series, the 10 a.m. one. So the absolute last series is the 10 a.m. one. Notice how I only said that because the final's the most important one. They pretend in their framing as though all the matches I'm talking about only start at 10 a.m. and 10 a.m. is not a big deal because, work day starts at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. So everyone's up at school and work. The joke is everyone's up at school and work, dickhead, therefore they can't watch the game. You just counted yourself there, fuckface. Then secondly, how about this factor? How about when you you go, waking up is not a big a deal. Yeah, for the final it wouldn't, but for the rest of the event, we can't do that. You can do that for a World Cup final. You can't just take 2 weeks off, can you? You need to go to work. And then lastly, you notice you ignore what the 4 a.m. one's like. Oh, it's waking up at 4 a.m. Totally reasonable. By the way, if you're going to say the 10 a.m. one's fine, yeah, I'm fine with that. But if you're going to say the 4 a.m. and 7 a.m. games are totally reasonable to wake up for, at that point in time, I would just ask you what would be unreasonable? If that's not, I've just said, I think by definition, they'll be the worst possible hours for Europeans. But if that's not unreasonable, what is unreasonable? Just 1 minute past midnight? Should we have 1 minute sleep? What even are we doing here? Just so I can be wrong, you have to change all of reality and pretend everything about your life isn't how we all know it is. Mental, innit? Let's see. Bro, 10 a.m. EU time is already 5 p.m. local time. Welcome to time zones. What an unfortunate effect of having events on the other side of the world. Yeah, we don't have to have them on the other side of the world. Has anyone ever explained that? How would it ever make sense, except for a perfect world, who only give a fuck about China? Because, spoiler, China number one, they don't give a flying fuck about the rest of the world. Are you actually that far behind on how China sees the world? Right? I understand why they want their event. They don't give a shit about the Western viewership. By the way, they wouldn't even have help with that anyway. They want Chinese sponsors, etc. But why do we have to have the event there? Oh, but you can't ever ask that question. You have to just accept what already exists, say I'm a moron for complaining, and that it has to just be this way anyway. Now, keep that energy for every other topic in the world. Every other time something's already arranged and it's not ideal, doesn't matter. Leave it as it is. Why are you complaining being self-entitled, you prick? Oh, sorry, is Reddit just entirely about being entitled to complain about every single thing constantly, even though you pay nothing? Yeah, I thought so. My bad. Here's a good one. Nobody cares that EU has the majority of CS players / viewers. Not everything has to revolve around them. Cloud9 fucking logo. So now this is just an NA guy going, hey, no one cares that the EU has the... It's not a big deal that you've got all the viewers in a thread that's about the industry being about viewers. And if you want to maximize viewership, you'd host it not at these times in Asia because you shoot yourself in the foot. Yeah, but if I just say who even cares about viewership and it being large, and especially that they come from Europe, then your point's silly again, isn't it? Yeah, because you're just changing my point, you fucking cretin. Another one. You don't remember how it's insane to wake up at 10 a.m.? It is if you have a job or stay up till 5 a.m. grinding face it. Yeah, it's almost accurate, that, isn't it, what I just said there? Get ready for the commie bullshit. Bro, how about us in NA having to literally destroy our sleep / work schedules to stay up the entire night? By the way, he's right. Even for some NA people, this isn't ideal. Like, what do they do for the 10 a.m. European game? Logically, by the way, the 10 a.m. European game starts at 4 a.m. for East Coast people and 1 a.m. for West Coast people. So it doesn't even work for them. Like, maybe the West Coast person can watch the last series, but not if it goes too long. It doesn't even work for North America. People try to explain concepts like school and university, but this guy's a fucking moron, isn't he? What's the viewership numbers like in China and Asian region as a whole? I saw some insane numbers early day one. No, you didn't. That's just absolute nonsense. Like, you might have seen higher numbers, but there's no way they were insane. That's an utterly pathetic comment. But couldn't find where people got that number. Well, what a coincidence. You had evidence that shows I'm wrong, but magically it just disappeared, it evaporated into the ether after that. There's only websites called ES charts and stuff that document it all. You can get the pro subscription. But magically, you saw it, totally. And right after that, Scully, I saw fucking aliens take off in his flying ship just before you came around the corner. You must believe me. The truth is out there. I'm sorry, Mulder. I don't believe you. It's still season 1. Also, what the fuck is the point of the commie bullshit part? It's incredibly simple to understand. Because here's the thing. It didn't just stop and say, miss me with the commie bullshit. It said... Commie bullshit being where you pretend everyone is owed equal representation in the scheduling. I don't actually think, as a human who's a native English speaker, I could be more explicitly clear about what I mean by commie bullshit there. I don't think it's possible. I just said where you pretend everyone is owed equal representation in scheduling. How more explicit could I make my point, guys? Oh, wait, they don't want me to have a point, so they're just going to ignore it no matter what. Let's see. I am confused. 163 points. So Windows going to be dog shit again. Isn't 10 a.m. a reasonable time to start for EU? Right, we're just actually going to now give mass upvotes to someone who starts with the opening gambit that 10 a.m. for the most important match of the year is a reasonable starting time for Europe. 10 a.m. That's just reasonable. To make me wrong, the most important match of the whole year, starting in the major viewership region at 10 a.m. is reasonable. Not even like slightly early, or it's not that bad. It's just reasonable. That's actually reasonable. If you were to ask for the sweet spot, what would be reasonable? That would be right within it. We have to even start with an absurd premise. And miss me with the BS, right? So I did it about commie bullshit and people thinking they're owed something they're not when they're not the main viewer. And I clearly tied that into the fact you're not the main viewership. And that's who I think should be catered to because that's where the money comes from. And miss me with the BS. If you care about something, you can stay awake and watch it if it's that, right? So at the end of the major, when that doesn't happen and hundreds of thousands of European people didn't watch the major, therefore the major didn't hit the viewership it's needed, all the European and NA teams got less viewership, less interest in that sense. When all of that happens at the end, even though what I'm saying could have stopped it and fixed it, just go, well, all the people who didn't watch could have woken up early, fucking dickheads. But that helped a lot. That helped a lot. That complete cognitive dissonance, just nonsense, non sequitur. Yeah, but if you care, you could wake up. What does that have to do with what I've just said about reality and what's happening? But don't worry, here's why it's upvoted. Because he did the commie bullshit again. So he's about to do the commie bullshit where he pretends he is owed an equal amount of events at his time zone in his region with no context about how esports operates, tournament organisers make their money, and what the significance of having viewership being high would be. We Asian fans stay up until after 1 a.m. to watch Counter-Strike. Pause. There are so many time zones in Asia that is already an absurd comment. Asian fans. Right, if you don't know, in England, we call Indian people Asian. Have you seen where India is versus like Japan? But we're just going to pretend Asia is like Belgium or something. So we Belgians are usually watching after 1 a.m. Who gives a fuck? Yeah, you haven't given any framing why that would matter. But get ready, they're going to all do the commie bullshit. They're going to imply they should be catered to, apropos of nothing. Just the fact that we get more events. We don't. We get events catered to the main viewership, and we happen to be part of that main viewership. I know we don't get credit for that. We're all obsessed in Europe with watching, playing Counter-Strike, buying things, all this shit. We act like that's just nothing that we do that. Other people aren't doing it, but they should be catered to. That sounds like you're really mentally ill, narcissistic and self-entitled, bro. Because in League, where I'm not the main person who should be celebrated and catered to, I get that I'm on the back burner. I don't have a problem with it, as I said in the opening. So then this moron goes, the world doesn't revolve around one continent. It absolutely, in Counter-Strike, revolves around Europe. The best pro players, like Elise from Cole, will even tell you this. In fact, it's one of their major complaints. So you're just going to take what actually would be the closest to factual consensus statements and just deny them because you don't want them to be true. I think that's about as commie as it gets there, pal. It has always been the case for a lot of things for us, not just CS. How fucking dare you say not just CS? When I just explained that in League of Legends, the biggest major esports game in the world, it isn't like that. It is actually catered to Chinese time many, many times over, and it should be. But no, you're now going to gaslight everyone that we Asian fans, and in every game this is what happens. Probably just racist. You know what? Fuck it. It's probably colonial. Probably a holdover from colonialism that they just don't want you non-whites to be able to watch CS. Bloody racists say. We are able to accept that we can't have nice things for about 95% of the time. Pause. Did I not literally start my fucking thread explaining that I can handle not having the nice thing if it makes sense? But no, let's read this sentence in entirely. We are able to accept that we can't have nice things for about 95% of the time. Why can't this man-child accept that other continents exist? Opening tweet of my thread, I can handle early start times in League of Legends when there are events in other continents because they have the viewership over there. So completely, factually and contextually, the opposite of what he's saying. But remember, I'm not just wrong and he's misunderstood me. I'm a narcissist and self-entitled and I'm a man-child because I can't accept other continents. My whole tweet was, why do other continents exist? Only Europe exists and should exist. Make the games for me. I'm tired and don't want to wake up at 10 a.m. Wah. Here's the real question you got to ask yourself. How fucked in the head are they that it's only that insane straw man I just did there that they can have exist and interact with? Notice no one's interacting with the main topic either. It's just all about me. These are the moron. You know what they say? Don't get distracted by the finger pointing at the moon and miss the moon. They're the ones going, yeah, but the finger though, the guy with the finger, yeah, well, look at that moon over there. No, I can't look at the moon because look at the dickhead point. Look at that narcissistic man-child pointing at the moon. And also, look under his fingernails. Are his fingernails that clean? Who gives a fuck about that? Well, what's a moon when a dickhead's pointing out? I'll look at the sun. I personally just watch it. Right, if you say look at the moon, Thorin, then I'm going to do the opposite. I'm just going to look at the sun like this, like Malcolm from Chocolate Orange with fucking matchsticks in my eye until I'm blind and my whole retina's just been burned out. There you go, Thorin. Do you like that? Do you think you're entitled to see too? You think you're entitled to say I shouldn't look directly into the sun just because you think the moon's over there? I think you might actually be mentally ill, bro. Adjusting one time, especially when it is a region that could start producing hard-hitting teams and fan base for the game, isn't a problem. We've just gone, the word could there went into Narnia. So it goes, adjusting one time, so we're only ever holding this event once, guys. We're never going to have other events in China. Says who? Where did that come from? Where did that mad non sequitur come from? Also, going, it's just one event in Asia. Oh, it's just the most important of the year, you fuckface. By your own logic, if this was ESL Challenger, you think I'd be complaining, you actual rat of a human. Of course I wouldn't, you cunt. Write it down, he said the fucking magic word. I have to quickly write that down. Where's the other part there? Wait there a sec. Right, so China is a region that could, the word could is going to do all of the load bearing. Now, I followed Counter-Strike. Again, another thing we're going to do is pretend I wasn't around in Counter-Strike the whole time. I wasn't there since 2001. And by the way, I was watching the game from before even that. I wasn't doing all that. I'm a moron who just came along today and don't know any of these things and know nothing about how the industry works. I definitely don't know anything about publishing, what game devs think, what the top TOs think, how they arrange events, what factors. I don't know any of that. Random people with Mongols flares, they know more than me because I'm a man-child. So basically, if you hold events in China, then they could just suddenly start producing hard-hitting teams. Spoiler, stop. Is there a single hard-hitting Chinese team? There isn't. Do you know when there was last a hard-hitting Chinese team? It was never in CS2. It was in CS 1.6. In like 2010, there was a team called Tai Lu who was pretty good. And even then, they were like, they could maybe make the semi or a quarter of a tournament. If you want an even better team, you'd have to go back to 2005 or 2006. So we're talking about almost 20 years ago. So why are they producing less hard-hitting teams now when we've had loads of events in China compared to those early days? In fact, are you ready for the ultimate irony of all? We actually got the hardest hitting teams when there were the least events there. So there's no correlation whatsoever. But okay, let's first of all imagine that we're just going to start producing top teams. By the way, if that happened, yeah, it'd make total sense. But you know why you won't produce top teams? Because you need to already have a massive player base. If you had a massive player base, you'd have enough players on the funnel to produce good teams. You don't have enough players. If you had a massive player base, you'd also get viewership, in which case none of this would even be a problem. It wouldn't even be a conversation to have. So you've already made it absurd. So you're going to start producing top teams, an absurd premise. By the way, Mongols isn't even a hard-hitting team yet. And fan base, we're just going to produce a whole fan base now, by the way. All we're doing is giving up the most important event of the year and gambling that the viewership will definitely be lower because it might in the future mean there's awesome teams from China and a big fan base. And that's not a big problem to intentionally cripple the viewership of the biggest event of the year. We don't know when we will get another major in Asia. Well, it's irrelevant to what I've just said about the viewership. EU literally has had the majority of the majors, and rightfully so because of the fan base. No, you don't get to say that because you've just agreed with me. Rightfully so, you agree that EU should get the majority of the majors because of the fan base, aka what becomes the viewership. So then logically, we're going to need majors to be in Europe for the fan base, right? But you can't expect the game to grow. I don't. I actually know how games grow in Asia. They have to be in the PC cafe for free because you just pay for the PC time, not the games. You don't know that, even though you yourself claim to be Asian. I think you actually are either a liar or you're an idiot. I'm being serious. I don't think there's a third option. You are either lying about being Asian or you're not the sort of Asian that's Chinese, or you are literally an idiot who doesn't understand even your own region's game publication. You think it's because there just wasn't a World Championship in Counter-Strike that people are playing Valorant and League of Legends instead. That's how stupid you are. We don't know Well, I already read that one. But you can't expect the game to grow and develop if you have mouth-breather takes about the game crossing continents. Pause. Right. You can't expect, right, even though he says putting a major in that region might literally grow a whole fan base and make top teams, you can't have the game grow and develop if people like me make tweets like this on Twitter. That's what he just said. He just said if you have mouth-breather takes about the game crossing continents. Now, it was never about continents. They're intentionally doing the continent thing, guys, to imply I'm like bigoted by saying this as well. And that's about denying them the tournament and that they don't deserve tournaments. That's the whole framing here because they're on some commie bullshit. It's literally a class struggle to these cretins. And having to adjust one time the most important event of CS2 so far. They're making it sound like it's just an equally identical. There was ESL Challenger Atlanta, and then there was Bet Boom Dacia 2 Belgrade, and then there was fucking, there was like ESL Impact. They're all just one event. And you know what? We're just giving one event to Asia, and that'll have lower viewership. Oh, can I have more specifics on that event, please? Oh, yeah, it's just the biggest event ever in CS2. That will be very important for viewership. When said continent has always adjusted to ridiculous. So it ends with the reason why it's fine to have events there is always justified because the people there, and there are by definition less, therefore they are less important and less significant to the viewership. We should actually care equally about whether less people watch the game or more people watch the game. So if you have a choice, right, you could have 1 million people watching country A, or you could have 10 people watching country B. Well, logically, if we have 5 events, we should give 3 to the one that has the millions and 2 to the ones with the 10, because it'd be unfair for the one with the 10 not to get any. Like, they always have to adjust to ridiculous times. Oh, what is the reason they have to adjust? Because they're 10 people, and therefore the event isn't in their region, with their teams, with their tournament organisers, with their viewership, with their sponsor, with them. Oh, right, yeah, that's almost that totally makes sense that they have to cater to the other people, isn't it? In the same ways, imagine me doing posts like this, right? Imagine they actually took the Super Bowl, guys, and they held it at the worst possible time zone for North American viewers. And by the logic of this guy here, the worst place in the world it could be held might actually grow the game. They might get dope American football teams from that region and a whole fan base. Plus, it's just one match during the year out of American football. So what's the big deal? I know it's the biggest one in the entire game that like everything rides on, but it's just one tournament. And besides, the people in that shitter region have to wake up at really fucked up times to watch American football games. Do you notice how insane that sounds? Do you notice how, again, reality's reversed here? They sound like the lunatic, self-entitled narcissists who only care about when they have to wake up and nothing about the greater health of the game. They just pretend to by going, but if you drink the snake oil, maybe the game will grow and there'll be fans and hard-hitting teams. And besides, I have to wake up early and late. That's unfair, is it? I'm tired. Here's another good one. Get ready. I'm now going to be insane for suggesting things I never said. This is what I'm thinking, North American viewer who also is complaining about not having ideal times for him. But let's not ever address that. It's you that are the narcissist, mad about you specifically. Let's pretend still it's only me saying it was about me and when I wake up. I never said anything about waking up. I had to do a sanity check. By the way, have you noticed how it's never like, I think he's sort of talking out of his arse. Everything's like, he's insane. I can't, but it's crazy he would say that. I had to check I was sane to even look at 10 on the clock and go, is that early? I had to do a sanity check and picture 10 a.m. on a clock to make sure I wasn't crazy. Like some Rodney Dangerfield sketch. 10 a.m. is a totally reasonable time for someone. What relevance would you thinking 10 a.m. is reasonable have to do with the provable fact this major will have less viewership and I'm explaining that it doesn't have to have less viewership? What would that have to... Hey, guys, because this was at 10 a.m., it's going to have less viewership. Yes, but it's reasonable it's at 10 a.m. Well, nevertheless, it is going to have less viewership. Is it a big deal, Thorin, to wake up early? No, I'm not talking about me. I'm saying even if I wake up, it's still going to have less viewership. God, is everything about you. You do know all the continents exist, right? And besides, even if it has less viewership, I had to stay up really late once to watch a game. The world starts at 6 a.m., right? Time zones now aren't even real. The whole world, every region starts at 6 a.m. So you know everyone who goes to school, they all get up at 6 a.m. You know everyone who works, 6 a.m. You know all CS fans, I mean, why would I care about everyone else? There's only people who are CS fans you think you care about. Imagine if they never address CS fans. Have you noticed that? You know CS fans, in every region, CS fans wake up at 6 a.m. Oh, sorry, am I gaslighting you? Like they're gaslighting me? Do you actually think, does anyone listening to this call right now actually think that people who are CS gamers in their local time zone start the day at 6 a.m.? This is fucking absurd. It's the other way around. If anything, I would guess more people go to 6 a.m. on a basic grind than fucking start at 6 a.m. And someone is complaining about 10 a.m. Right? Why was I complaining? Oh, I was complaining because it will mean less viewership. You're not even disputing that or addressing it. You're just saying, I think it's reasonable to wake up at 10. Some of these matches are going to be at 12 a.m. for me in California. It always will come back to that. No matter what argument they give, it'll always be mixed in there. And besides, someone who in your post should understand, like the first one, I'm not in the major region and therefore you have to cater to the bigger one. Yeah, but if we pretend that this sport isn't about eyeballs and viewership and we pretend it's just about anyone wanting to watch the major, well, I sometimes have to wake up late. It's only them that is the narcissist and the self-entitled prick. That's much more difficult for someone with a job. Right, wait a minute, guys. It's totally reasonable that in every region, gamers who watch CS, so the only thing that this entire framing's about, start the day at 6 a.m. But when they start the day at 6 a.m., so not on the weekends, except for their finals, it won't be on the weekends. When they start the day at 6 a.m., they also all don't go to school or work. Because then he has the goal to point out, if you have a job, it's difficult when time zones aren't ideal. How fucking dare you, you actual twat. Another guy, I stood up till 4 a.m. Well, I'll tell you what, when you become the major viewership and we're actually crippling the success of the major, I'll go ahead and make that point in your favour. Oh, wait, I did make that point. That is literally the abstract point I'm making here. I say nothing about time zones here, except that Europe is obviously the main viewership area, isn't it? But they think I'm mentioning Europe because I'm European. Even though that could never make sense because it's actually completely excluded by the first framing. The first tweet makes it impossible that I'm just doing it because I'm European. Because I'm saying that in League of Legends where I suffer, that I am fine suffering because it makes sense for the industry. But nobody's going to address that. In fact, people are even going to say stuff like, if we just ignore all the framing, then he's an idiot. Brilliant. Nailed it again. Just killed it. Just absolutely killed it. Although the final will be on a Sunday morning, so everybody should be able to watch it. Right, problem solved, guys. Another guy with an NA flair has explained that because on Sunday, it's Sunday, everyone will be able to watch. So actually, I was wrong. The viewership will be as high or as high as it's ever been because everyone can watch and it's not a big deal. And is it that big a deal? And I think it's fine. And they all think it's okay. So actually, the viewership will be great. The thread was never about that ever. Oh, wait, it was because they just made it up. Like this guy says, if you had a job, that wouldn't be good, would it? And then, because these people refuse to look at the contextual framing, again, what time would be better? Right, we're now going to pretend there are no times that are better because he's doing the commie bullshit where there's no time that's perfect for everyone, aka him who's from NA specifically. If you move it to 5 p.m. CET, so he actually understands, he's almost nailed it, that 5 p.m. CET would obviously be way better viewership than currently in China. But he's now going to pretend that's not the case, and everyone, because individuals won't get to watch it, actually, viewership's identical no matter what time zone. So you move it to 5 p.m. for CET, pause. You've already now given me, I accept your terms, I win. That's it. Well, let's check the viewership. I win. You were wrong. End of story. No. He's now going to pretend that doesn't happen. It's now 8 p.m. PST. Well, that's irrelevant because how many viewership for the majors is from California / the West Coast? Complete non sequitur means nothing in the context of what we're talking about. And that's 11 a.m. EST. So again, completely irrelevant. So then all of NA is complaining. Then you're self-entitled pricks, aren't you, narcissist, man-child, fuckhead? You're the person you think you're arguing against as me, but that's you. You're literally doing what you're saying I'm doing. You're doing what I'm doing. Now, are you ready for the ultimate? When I do this, I could do it as a mic drop, but there's more to go, so it's not a mic drop. Are you ready, guys, for what is one of my favourite things about morons online? Morons often are liars, but just like liars, morons always lose because they can't keep track of the stupid things they just said and they contradict themselves. So are you ready for me to use a weird name to contradict a weird username. So a weird username is going to absolutely slam a weird username. So if we go up to here, I had to do a sanity check and picture 10 a.m. on a clock to make sure I wasn't crazy. I will then respond to that by a post by the same guy saying that if you move the time to European time, then people on the East Coast would have to wake up at 11 a.m. and they would all be complaining. Let's go back again. Let's see if there's more. Let's see if there's more meat on the bone. The world starts at 6 a.m. Apropos of nothing, every region. The world starts at 6 a.m., so it's totally reasonable to have a match at 10 a.m. But if it's at 11 a.m., for North Americans, that's no longer reasonable, and the world doesn't start at 6 a.m. Or if it was for 8 a.m., well, 8 a.m.'s after 6 a.m., and the world starts at 6 a.m., but that's now not the right time, so everyone will be complaining. What was his point again? His point was just fuck Thorin. That's it. That was just his point. Oh, look, someone who's actually nailed it. To be clear, 10 a.m. is when last best of 3 starts. Because I was never making it about when the first match is and when I wake up. First match starts at 4 a.m. Not complaining at all. I'm personally fine by that. It's not like I have to wake up at 4 for every tournament. You can't expect Rise of Asia CS if you don't accommodate for them. No. You can't expect the Rise of Asia CS if you don't do any of the things that will make the game rise in Asia. By the way, here's the weirdest thing of all. I would, if I wanted CS to grow in Asia, look at games that have grown in Asia. So I would look at League of Legends, Dota, Valorant. You know what? How about look at games that actually are very similar to CS? There used to be one called Counter-Strike Online. It was a modded version of 1.6. There's a game called Crossfire, which is made by Koreans. There's Sudden Attack. These are like Counter-Strike clones that are played more than Counter-Strike. Or at least were in the past. But let's ignore that and pretend this is uncharted territory. And when you come to them and build the supermarket, they're all going to be queuing up for their cottage cheese, just like your granny on a Thursday. Because you've done all the cargo. You've built it, so they will come. Having events across the globe would always mean one continent or another would get burned. Pause. Yes, I explained that. I even explained how it works in other games where the biggest game of the entire world is League. And I understand that a continent will get burned. So I'm arguing, even though in League, that's my continent that gets burned, I'm arguing that's fine if it maximizes viewership because that's actually the monetary and financial mechanism via how the industry works. Asia gets burned the highest. Not even true in League, which he later claimed over there. It's not just CS, but it is just CS for this fucking moron. That itself is a major cause for pure viewership from the region. Right. There now would be really good viewership from Asia if all the events were there. He himself even agrees they aren't the teams. But no. The reason for the poor viewership, it's not that you have to have the viewers to then watch the event. You have to have the event first and then the viewers might start. What are you even talking about here? What are we even talking about here? He's complaining about 10 a.m. grand finals and 4 a.m. start times, and it has only occurred once. What? Where did I complain about that? I complained in the context of viewership. In the first post, I made it clear I'm fine with it. Oh, you mentally ill. My bad. I forgot you mentally ill. Us Asians, my God, can it ever stop every post just about the person posting? It's basically just a bunch of people from Asia and North America going, yeah, but I have to have events that are at unfair times. So fuck you. You're just selfish and obsessed with yourself. Think about others for once. The world doesn't revolve around you. Now let me explain how my personal experience anecdotally wasn't good. Us Asians sit and watch the damn matches even when they absurdly cross. No, you don't. You literally don't, which is why your viewership, you just admitted, is poor viewership because of the times. But then you just lied and pretended all Asians, us Asians, we just sit and watch. If you sat and watch the matches, there won't be a problem with it, you liar. Thorin can put his... Right, the problem is I'm not a big boy. My post wasn't a 20-year veteran explaining the mechanism of how the industry of esports works. It was some little kid man-child crying that he had to wake up at 10 a.m. once because mummy told him to go to bed early to watch his CS video games. And I should just suck it up for once. And when they keep saying once, what they mean is for the most important tournament to ever be held in CS2. But they're going to keep pretending like we have one every day and it's just one day I'm giving up to Asians. At this point, I'm basically racist. I'm basically a bigot for not just letting Asians have one little event to magically cargo cult build an entire scene out of. He accepts that Asia exists, so that's why this guy only has 3 points, not hundreds of points like some of these shitter comments. So every time someone says the truth, shall I tell you a secret? When it's been 2 days, 3 points doesn't mean 2 people agreed with him. That means probably like 1,000 people downvoted him and then 1,002 upvoted him. That's how bad fucking Reddit is. He accepts that Asia exists, just mentions it's not a good strategy to cater to them, since they are a very low percentage of the player, viewer, and peer base. Oh yeah, by the way, they also have fuck all money to spend, so it would help none of our Western brands. Accommodating once. They're going to keep using that semantic trick, by the way. They're going to keep making it seem like it's no big deal that they get one event, but magically the one event has to be the biggest event ever held. Once, when the majors in their region isn't going to kill the game. Right, my post was about how to make the game have higher viewership, provably, but now what I actually said, a straw man, is that if you don't have this event in Europe and make me not have to wake up at 10 a.m., it will kill the game dead. That's what I now said. And we're giving that. By the way, this has 3 points for completely accurate post in the context of what I said. This has 18 points for absolute nonsense straw man right out the gate of the first sentence. How many Asia majors do we have? Well, it's irrelevant since my post is about viewership. 1? It's not like the next few years are already signed away to Asian countries, right? I can't point out that it's absurd if you want max viewership to have the event in Asia because they haven't had Asian majors before and they aren't going to have many in the future. Now, that's called a non sequitur. It doesn't make any sense. It means nothing. But he'll keep insulting me as he completely talks nonsense. Has Thorin ever realised that Asians having to put up with awful watch times for them can itself contribute to low viewership ratings? It's the stupidest argument possible. It's the stupidest argument imaginable. And I'll reframe this. Can Thorin understand that the region that has less viewership has to put up with awful watch times? By his logic, my first post should say, League of Legends should have good viewership for Europe because then it will grow European viewership and one day maybe it will be as big as China and Korea. And also, I'm sick of having to wake up early and I have to watch all the games at bad times. It's unfair. It's unfair. Can't we just have one world for us? But again, let's just insultingly address me about stuff I've never said. I mean, apparently I'm an idiot. The real reason they don't have great viewership is because they hold the event there at bad times. But then he himself also says that us Asians still just sit and watch the damn matches. So Asians are also more hardy than us and more willing to go through hardship. They watch the games even though they're at bad times. But since the games are at bad times, no one watches, and that's the reason the viewership's low. Is it only me sees that they're arguing with themselves? Like, not with each other, with themselves, with what they just said earlier. We suck it up. You just said 3 words before low viewership ratings. So you have low viewership ratings, but you suck it up and you watch the match. Well, you don't. By definition, you don't. He means himself, by the way. When he keeps saying we, he just means himself. He means he personally has to watch the games at bad times, so he's going to pretend everyone does, and Asians are just better than Europeans and, I don't know, more cool in that sense. But also, simultaneously, I can't complain about low viewership because the viewership would be higher if you just put the times at better times. But wait a minute, Asians don't need the games at better times because they just suck it up. You'll be stuck in an endless logic loop like that. That's probably what hell's like. Purgatory is probably being stuck in his logic loop forever. But get ready. Let's see if we can insult me more for something that I didn't even put like you're a stupid football, but let's see if we can insult me some more. But you can't expect the game to grow beyond its boundaries. You also can't have no reason for it to grow. You can't just go, well, since it hasn't grown doing A, do Z. Well, why would Z? We'll just do what you're going to grow. You can't expect it to grow beyond its boundaries. If you throw tantrums the moment it inconveniences you once in a blue moon. So first of all, the most important CS2 match ever, which is the major, is just once in a blue moon. It's no big deal. It's just a one-off. It's a whatever. It's just a game, bro. Can we have a game? Why does he have to keep doing this insane, disingenuous framing of what the event is? And then You know me posting this thing, like I can handle early start times in this other context that makes sense in another game. That's me having a tantrum. I'm actually having a tantrum right now, even though he's constantly like appealing to more, hey guys, can't I have an event? Hey, we just suck it up. Like, so you're just going to complain. So is it really that big a deal to wake up that early? Oh, you fucking man-child, you piece of shit, you scum, you subhuman. Why are you having a tantrum over it? Like, why don't you just like address it? Besides, mouth breather takes like yours are the reason why, right? So because I've said the viewership will be lower and the reasons why it will be and how it could not be, that makes me a mouth breather, which is me having a tantrum, not him. He's already addressed me about 4 times on Twitter. I'm not even there. I'm not even there. And then someone also absurd who gets more points than the guy actually saying the reasonable comment, because he just says a Mongols one, just says about how this guy has a reasonable opinion and a Mongols flair. And that's like a really famous thing, apparently. Another good one. 56 points. Almost like there's a hugely untapped potential market in East Asia with the CS2 esports scene, and they're actually putting effort into the momentum they have over there. Now, momentum is the concept of something building, and what happened before increases like its magnitude or power, right? So what momentum has built up before this event that it's building onto? Because everyone else, including all these Asian people, are telling me that this is the one event ever, and there aren't events since once in a blue moon, and that nothing has been done there, and that's why viewership's incredibly low. But he's now telling me there's this incredible momentum that this event is going to capitalize on and ride the wave of, and it's going to actually tap into a huge potential market that bizarrely has never been tapped into in 24 years. But has been tapped into by Valorant and Crossfire and CS Online and Dota and even to some degree, like maybe even Overwatch at one point in time, I don't know, and League of Legends. But let's never address that. In fact, CS is the only game that exists and it's all cargo cult thinking. And also, I'm not an expert who comes from fucking League of Legends. I come from League of Legends, you cretin. I followed it the entire time. But again, even though my opening comment says about that, I know nothing about every game. I don't know about CS or about League. I don't even know how time works. I don't even know that every region, everyone gets up at 6 a.m. who's an esports viewer of majors and CS. I'm an idiot, mate. But let's get ready for a stupid comment. The major is there strategically in the name of the capital. In the name of capital, but no, I guess it's commie. Right, guys. The major is being held in China right now because of capitalism. That's why we're holding it in a country that isn't explicitly capitalist. And it's not commie because we're holding the event there for capital. Except we're not, because Perfect World, who is the distributor of CS in China, is the one hosting the event, right? So already it's not a Western org, it's a Chinese one. And if you don't know how Chinese companies work, Chinese companies pretty much nearly always have someone from the actual literal Communist Party, literally commie, involved with their company, or who has to like be on the board or oversee it. And it's not like a free market and an independent company. That's not how it works. They literally have a communist system ruled by, checks notes, the Communist Party of China. Those people will be directly involved with this event. There's people at the events I've seen, by the way, who even go around for the government to make sure no one's saying anything crazy on the broadcast. Literal commies, but no, because Valve and PGL are Western companies, this is raw capitalism. And checks notes, here's what's capitalist about it. We're intentionally lowering the viewership and our ability to all make money through the capitalist mechanism of having high viewership and selling sponsors off the eyeballs. So we're doing the opposite of what would be capitalist, going to a country expressly ruled by a communist party, but I'm an asshole for suggesting that it's commie to think it's entitled, and everything I say is commie, and the major's commie now. And because I've said commie, I mean, I also probably have implied that Perfect World are walking around in Soviet fucking, what would you call it, like fucking, it was called FSB now. What was it called? KG. They're walking around in KGB outfits going, comrade, do you enjoy this major you have here? Are you enjoying major? Well, you know, cheer. That's what I'm implying, because we have to do it. But get ready. Someone stupid's going to say something. But, I want to wake up at 11 a.m., not 9:45 a.m. Guys, why did he say you wake up at 9:45 a.m. when we've already agreed and mass upvoted that the world starts at 6 a.m.? But even he knows you'd still wake up at 15 minutes before because it's 10 a.m. How on earth is he complaining about a totally reasonable start time? The entire post was about the viewership, not me. Not the first post in this tweet thread that they have all had to have seen makes it impossible to take the interpretation they're taking. But they're that stupid. Thorin 2K, because I'm basically Stewie 2K now, who was just complaining about an early start time. Thorin 2K can't handle 10 a.m. start times, lol. 50 points, opening sentence. I can handle early start times when there are big events because the viewership is big in that game. Thorin can't handle start times, lol. 50 points upvoted. This is mental. 63 points. CS should always be played at the time most convenient for Europeans. Now, that's not what I said. I pointed out that you schedule, I even pointed out with the context that in League, it's completely the opposite, and Europe would be a bad time to schedule. I pointed out you just cater to the biggest market, not Europeans, but their logic is, I'm European, so I'm just saying it for Europeans, and because I had to wake up personally. So CS should always be played at the most convenient time for Europeans. Apropos of nothing. Even if Europe's tiny, it should still be played for Europeans, because that's all I was saying, because that's the only way to make it stupid enough to post a stupid comment that gets you 63 points. It should never try to reach out and grow the scene internationally. Notice you can only grow the scene from the top down with the biggest event ever. Bizarrely, there's no grassroots scene, so you can't do small events and build up. Then you don't have a scene. It's nonsense. It's not how it works. This will be good for the health of the scene. Right, me now arguing to make the biggest event in CS2 have the largest viewership it could will have the knock-on effect of killing the health of the scene for the next decade, because this imaginary Chinese market won't instantly open up from having a Czechoslovak video game tournament there. Can you guys stop sharing this old guy's whiny tweets? Stop giving him attention. Says someone giving him attention, giving engagement to the thread, which by incentives, they don't know what incentives are, that's why they're commie, will make the person who made the thread want to do another one because he got loads of clout from it, and people will definitely, because of like your comment here got points, will continue to post about it, and definitely, and you're giving me attention. If you were capable of not giving me attention, your comment wouldn't exist. Of all the shit Thorin takes, this is certainly right. This is a shit take from me now. It's actually probably one of the least plausible ones you could ever have a problem with if you understood what was written and understand English. Cry me a river. Right, all I'm doing now is crying. Cry me a river. We Asian fans, right, get the bingo card out. Even though I said don't make it commie bullshit where everyone, apropos of nothing, is just owed an equal amount of scheduling. Yeah, but we don't get equal scheduling. So why are you crying? They said crying, but they don't even have a justification for crying. I'm crying for the whole game to succeed. They're crying just for them personally to have a nicer time to watch the game, even if it literally kills the scene, even though they then have the balls to pretend I'm the one killing the scene and stopping it having health. So their logic, by the way, goes that even if a blood transfusion wouldn't help a dying person, you should take blood from a healthy person so they have less blood and could be a bit more ill in that scenario, and then just give it to the dying person, even though it won't help them, because what if it did? What if it just magically regenerated them instantly? Probably doesn't even work in theory as long as you don't take too much. I guess blood generation does work, so that doesn't even work as context. See how I always put contextual framing there? We Asian fans watch EU Major 3 a.m. at night. Right, let me just check something out for a second here, guys. So I'm going to put time zone Shanghai. Right, in China right now, in Shanghai, it is 5:20. Now I'm going to go to the, let's go, what should we put? Let's put Sri Lanka. That's in Asia. 2:50. So we're already 3 hours off just from India to Shanghai there, by the way. In Indonesia, Western Indonesian time is an hour before Shanghai. But no. Asia, they all watch the game at the same time, 3 a.m. EU babies, these comments aren't the bottom-down voted random shitter ones. These are the most upvoted comments, guys. EU babies need to learn the world doesn't revolve around them. Say the people who en masse cry about only when they individually watch the major, but then also say that they're not crying and that makes them cool, and that everyone shouldn't cry and think the world revolves around them while making everything just about them specifically. and the biggest audience crap is bullshit, right? I'm actually just lying about the facts now. It's not the case that Europe has the biggest audience. The CS scene in Asia won't grow if you favour the EU and everything. Well, wait a minute. Why would it need to grow if I lied about the biggest audience being in Europe? It's bullshit what I just said. So why would you need the Asian scene to grow if I was talking bullshit about the bigger viewership being in Europe? You've already, again, in the next sentence, counted what you said. So here's a great one where he's going to say something absolutely boneheaded. Edited. English Premier League in soccer have the highest Asian fan base because their schedule is much more favourable to Asian time zone compared to other leagues. They earn huge revenue from Asian fans when Spanish and German leagues miss out. To make CS a global esports, you need to remove these European comfort boundaries and think of everyone. What he just said there is football makes money from Asia. He doesn't even explain, does it make less? Does it change it? Does it make... Football makes money, therefore if we do what football does, we'll make money. That's called cargo cult thinking. There's no mechanism contained in that makes this ever work in CS. We have first major for the first time and they start crying. Do you know what my favourite thing is? There was a whole bunch of majors in fucking Asia, you wankers, in 1.6. It had no fucking effect on building a massive scene. It had none. But you don't know that because you probably were inside someone's balls at the time. Actually, that's a joke. Sperm doesn't work like eggs. You hadn't even been created by your dad's balls yet. You fucking dunce. Literally, Asian people had to watch the last 20 majors straight in a dog shit time. No, it's the whole world does revolve around them. That's all that matters. EU gets one and they're crying like fucking bitches, right? When I made this point about how I'm totally cool if you have more viewers than me on being the bitch, actually that makes me a fucking bitch. I'm a man-child, a self-obsessed narcissist, a fucking idiot. I think the world revolves around me and I'm just a fucking bitch. And remember, I'm the asshole. I'm the asshole in this equation, guys. They will never understand. I was going to do a Gowless thing too, right? We're also, because we're white and European, capable of understanding concepts that ironically someone says in a thread where nobody who's got massive upvoted has ever understood anything I've said and intentionally omitted things or said the opposite or claimed I've said the opposite. He mentions Asia in League, but the big events are also scheduled for NA, EU, China, KR, and they swap each major event. That's because that game is way bigger, you fucking idiot. Are you really going to pretend like where the player base and viewership is irrelevant to where you schedule the biggest tournaments? I'm sad that I can't watch most games too, but it's the first time and there is plenty of events. When you say the thing about, yeah, I guess you're... If I'm right, why do I have to be an asshole and be insulted? Why can't you go, well, you're right, but in other cases, there won't be more events? It's all at once. Most of these points are mutually exclusive. That's why it's so stupid that they're making them. While I agree only somewhat, let's get ready. We're off at 30 points. I must be a moron again. Because growing the Asian viewer base is important. None of this is doing that. They could easily have started the games 2 or 3 hours later. Oh, my God. So he agrees with me and then says they could have easily started them 2 or 3 hours later. Nobody in EU would complain about 6 or 7 a.m. starting time. But 4 a.m. is just impossible. Right, I'm just going to go ahead and ask you, the audience. Would people in EU, the major viewer base, complain about a 6 or 7 a.m. start time? Oh, wait, they already did up in this thread. Do you remember? They already did. But let's just gaslight everyone that no one would complain about 6 7. I mean, remember, the other guy said the whole world starts at 6 a.m., just in every region. But 4 a.m. is just impossible with a proper sleeping schedule. Thorin is literally complaining about a 10 a.m. start time. I quite literally did not complain about 10 a.m. start time. I even said it's absurd in the context of viewership because you're shooting yourself in the foot. But no, I'm literally just complaining that it starts at 10 a.m. 40 points. Everything should revolve around Europe. Opening post. I can handle early start times in LOL, for Europe square brackets, when there are big events in Asia because CN, China and Korea, KR, have enormous viewership in that game. Everything should revolve around Europe. All hail your overlords, fucking Thorin, 40 points. This person is incredibly mad at something I have never even said in a post where he, in theory, either didn't read, so it's meant to be commenting, or read and just decided to say the opposite. As a European, 10 a.m. is fine. 10 a.m. being fine to you doesn't make what I've said about the viewership being bad wrong. What I don't get is this. Why don't they just say, I don't care about the viewership? And in which case it's fine to say all this stuff. I don't care about the viewership. I only care about myself. Oh, wait, because then they'd have to admit they're a self-obsessed narcissist who only cares about their personal experience, not the health of the game. But then also claim that by not letting imaginary things that haven't grown the game happen and actually directly, materially limit and make worse the Western current real audience, I'm the one denying the health of the game and killing the game. But they all want everything catered to them. Here's a good one. Final is final, but every single group stage game is in the middle of the night. Here in Germany, at least, it starts at 4 a.m. and stops at around 9 a.m. Obviously not very watchable with people having to go to work, school, university. You get to watch VODs like NA fans do most of the time. Right, the whole thing was about live viewership. But now the answer is, well, that's not even right, and you're going to grow viewership, and you're not helping the health of the game, and besides, it's reasonable to get up at 10 and just watch a VOD. These people could come up with any amount of mental gymnastics as long as it doesn't involve just reading a sentence in English and asking charitably what did the person say, and then addressing what they said. Now you can finally understand what it's like to watch EU-hosted. I already know. I explained it in the opening one, and that was never what I complained about. But you got upvoted because you're talking, because you went, oh, well, bloody Europeans. Updates, fucking Europeans as usual. Fucking Thorin. He could have gone for literally any other game but the 10 a.m. BO3s and he would have had a point. No. When we go up, you've all upvoted posts saying 10 a.m.'s nothing, and in fact 6 a.m.'s when everyone starts. So this completely disagrees with even everyone else. The early morning games at around 4 a.m. are next to impossible. No, dude, why would it be relevant that it's really hard for the 4 a.m. ones? That's not the relevant point. The relevant point is it helps the Asian people. And didn't you know that the Asian people aren't watching because the times are really bad for them, but they also are watching because they just put up with it and they're just cooler than us and probably colonialism or something. And also, if you want the game to grow, you have to show it in Asia at the times they want. It doesn't matter that you hold it at any time that doesn't make sense for you. Why are you mentioning things about you? It's all about them and about the world revolving around them and them getting an event eventually. And don't say things that make sense for everyone else, because that would make you the one that's obsessed with yourself and it all being about you. Another good one. Socialism is when early Counter-Strike games, and if they're really early, it's communism. You know what's great? What would destroy all these people's brains if I just said, what is communism? Because their logic is it's just things Karl Marx wrote. What I said in my post is, having games at 10 a.m. means I have to get up early, and I don't like that, so that's communist. That's for real. What? By the way, they're not even trolling doing this to fuck with me, thinking I'm reading the thread. That's genuinely, if this was like they were doing a fucking exam, and if they fail, they go and work in a fucking mine for the rest of their lives, and if they succeed, they get their dream job. The question is, how would you interpret what Thorin wrote here? What was his point? They would actually write out with pen and submit and think they're going to get an A. He just is complaining about getting up early, and he says that's commie when events aren't at good times in Europe. And they would submit that and go, did I pass? And they'd go, well, no, F to the gulag. You go, what? What? But fucking Thorin should have set an alarm instead of tweeting. Right. So when I do set alarms and watch League of Legends, which I'm totally fine with because of the viewership angle, what I'm actually saying here is I hate getting up early and having to set an alarm. In fact, I don't even know alarms exist. So it's really frustrating because I keep waking up at 12 and there's no way I could wake up any earlier and I keep missing the games. What's that? Alarm clocks exist. Huzzah, the whole major's fixed. By the way, by his logic, why are all these Asian people complaining? Just get an alarm clock, mate. Have a nap after work. Just get an alarm clock. Wake up 4 in the morning. What's the problem? Get an alarm. Do you not have alarm clocks? I'm pretty sure they make them in your sweatshops. Get this man into a retirement home. Holy shit. Yeah. What I said there is so fucking mental. I should actually be forcibly put into an institution because I'm so old and I have dementia because I posted all of this. Not even I can just live my life and watch CS and tweet. No. To stop me tweeting, I should be actually institutionalized. What a surprise. Whiny motherfucker is whining. Says a whiny motherfucker whining about something that wasn't wine and intentionally making up what it said so it becomes wine to whine about it and receiving points from other whiners. What's new? Yeah, exactly. What is new, pussycat? You're just making up any old shite as usual. Not a single plea for all the Asian CS fans every fucking time we have to wake up. I literally explain in the first post what is essentially literally a plea that in other games, if I'm essentially saying in the first tweet that if there was more viewership in China, I would be fine with all majors being held on Chinese schedule, which would be bad for me. That is quite literally the abstract interpretation of my opening point. But they're all going to pretend I have said 180 the opposite and didn't say any of this. So I'm not allowed to point out that the viewership will be worse, because even though that's totally irrelevant, and it isn't the case that if you held it in bad times for Asia, the viewership will be worse overall, I should then make the same case and say, hey, why are we holding the event in the best viewership time zone? Now it's going to be bad for the few people who complain on Reddit from Asia. That's unfair. And because we're all commie, like Thorin said, I have to make an equal argument about every single person's circumstance, because we all have equal value in every sense, even though he made a monetary and financial argument about how the industry works. But fuckers get one tournament. They're going to... Notice how they have to do the disingenuous framing. It's just one tournament. We're going to put the Super Bowl in Africa, and then all the other games are still in America. What the fuck? Super Bowl is the most important one. You'll take the viewership in the sport. It's only one bloody game. You get all the pre-season games and all the regular season games. There's only the game in Europe you don't get. Now you can't give us just one little game. It's the most important one, you fuck. They're all going to be this. It's 5 p.m. in China. The best time for Chinese audience with viewership over perhaps 100k just in one live streaming channel of one platform. I can't be bothered reading this. It's fucking nonsense. It just doesn't make sense, does it? Here's a good one. It is bizarre that all these commentators... Now, I'm not even just an individual who made this comment, even though it was just Thorin being fucking Thorin whining as usual. Now, all commentators are me, and we're all doing this en masse. So all of us commentators, bizarrely, while making our living on CS, are complaining that the game is declined by means of influence. At the same time, deliberately deconstructing the effort of saving the game. Right, guys... Me pointing out you are killing the current live viewership of the game for an imaginary viewership that doesn't and hasn't been proven to exist is actually me killing someone trying to save the game. Them taking viewership away and by definition killing the game, making it smaller and less successful, is actually them saving the game because they're going to get that same viewership in an imaginary area where it doesn't exist. And even if it doesn't save it, besides, some Asians had to watch the games at bad times, so shut up whining. Why can't they just have it that way? Even though in doing so, they have crowbarred their whine about a totally separate event into a thread that has nothing to do with whine about that. I know Thorin is an outlier anyway, he says after pointing out that all commentators that make their living do what and say what I say. Brazilians watching at 6 to 7 a.m. be like, well, do you know the irony of that? Brazil is a fabulous area for time zones. In theory, we should have loads of events in Brazil. Oh, what's that? You pull people's hair, spit in their face, so you'll murder them to their face, and then do massive xenophobic fucking chants about how, like, you'll kill them from the crowd, and nobody understands you because they're not literally genetically Brazilian, and therefore they're like, I don't know, subhuman or something. They're incapable of understanding basic social concepts. Yeah, I wonder why they don't have more events in Brazil, mate. Another shit take by Thorin, except actually, because he's in the spirit of the Asian minor, that doesn't say shit take, it says another shiitake, it's another mushroom. He's having a delicious Japanese shiitake mushroom. Another shiitake mushroom by Thorin. This guy is obsessed with L's, say people going out of their way to invent what I said and then getting upvoted for it. The commie comment was unhinged. I'll put it to you again, the audience. You be the judge. Did I not show over and over again? They don't know what communism is, and their arguments quite literally align with resentment from class struggles, which has then been abstractly, in this case, used region to region. Hey, but you have more than us, and this isn't fair, and we deserve more, and you already have the extra one. You're the one oppressing us, and this isn't... Absolutely, if you know what you're talking about, I nailed it. But no, I'm obsessed with else. It's unhinged. I'm crazy. I'm insane. I need my sanity. I need to be put in a retirement home. I'm unhinged. But he's absolutely correct that the scheduling is absolutely awful. But because I said the word commie, he's just triggered out of his mind, of course. By the way, the event is literally being held in a country ruled by the Communist Party of China. But it's absurd to suggest anything is commie in the modern day except what Karl Marx wrote in the 19th century. Asian people, just all is Indians, Indonesians, Koreans, Japanese, Chinese, the people on the east of fucking Russia, they're all just Asians, bro. Asian people can't watch half of the games because they start in the fucking morning. Did he just actually nail, by the way? Did he actually just nail that even Asian people can't watch some of these games? So the other guy with the Mongols thing saying we Asians, and then an Asian guy's actually come in for real and just said that basically other Asians can't even watch the games with this scheduling. Well, why don't we develop their regions then, guys? Why don't we just put it in every shit tiny... Why don't we make the whole major about Congo? Let's grow CS in Congo. It doesn't matter that you won't be able to watch the event. Just only watch it in Congo. If we don't do it, they won't come, guys. Every single tournament in other esports held in Asia that I've watched never had start times. Ooh, interesting. The 10 a.m. start is the icing on the cake, even if that's comfortable. Another shit one. Now come to NA and have to watch at 1 a.m. Eurocentrism is a disease. Yeah, what I did there was Eurocentrism. That's why I started with a post that could never be described as Eurocentrism. I mean, by the way, by his not the first post sign affiliate or something in it. Fucking cretin. He wouldn't even know what that means. He thinks that means someone who fucks signs. Good. Is it just me or is 10 a.m. an okay timing? Well, it depends if you want the viewership, which is what the whole post was about. He expects China to hold an event at 12 a.m. China time. Do I? Did I say that? Where did I say that, by the way? Right. If you don't know, let me have a look here. We're going to go. Shanghai's where the tournament's taking place, right? In Shanghai, guys, it is now 5:38 a.m. So logically, if we go back 5 hours 38, 5 p.m., he's saying that I'm saying I expect China to hold the event at 5 p.m. because I said that at 10 a.m. is absurd. So he's taken 10 a.m., he's gone, even though Thorin doesn't say this, I'm just going to add 7 hours to that and say that he wants it to start 7 hours later. And since that would be at midnight, that's absurd. Yeah, it's absurd because you just invented that. You just pulled that out your arse, mate. You know what's crazy? Don't hold it in China. You're aware that, I know that's bonks to you because you're not capable of multiple factor thinking, but you don't have to have the event in China. That's sort of even what I was kind of saying in the post as well. We Asian fans have been pulling nighters. Thorin is still short-sighted on the true potential. Yeah, it's me that hasn't studied how publishing works in Valorant and Crossfire and Sudden Attack and Valorant and League of Legends. It's me that doesn't know any of that. And you're all the ones who are totally on the cutting edge of how to grow the game, which is checks notes. Just make all the very high top-down things that don't exist and work without a grassroots scene. If you just build the top aspect, the grassroots thing just appears overnight out of nowhere. You know, like how the Greeks used to think that, like, flies spawn out of corpses. They're not actually things that are attracted to decaying things and then put their eggs there because they didn't know the life cycle of an insect. They thought that when a body dies and you leave it there, eventually, for real, insects, flies just spawn out of it. And that's why they're always buzzing around. If we just basically put a corpse in Asia, the flies, which are the viewer, will just spawn. They'll just spawn out of it and they'll just be all there. Because that's how things work. You go top down. And so, for example, do you want to know, guys, how to make the World Cup have the best viewership ever? It's easy. No, I've got the better one for you. Do you want to know how to make the Champions League have the best viewership ever? Don't hold it in Europe where the main viewership is like people from Europe or something. I get this actually might not even work because, to be fair, I imagine loads of Asian people watch the Champions League. Logically, all Champions League finals should be held in America. Because if we hold it in America, it's a giant sports market. It's probably the sports market with the most money. If we hold all Champions League finals in America on the best time zone for Americans, it doesn't matter that it'll hurt European viewership. It could grow America, and we could just have, instead of American football, they'll watch the Champions League and soccer instead. And if you don't agree with me, you're short-sighted on the true potential of an American football market. Stop crying and throwing your toys out the cot. Say the people having a tantrum at having to basically understand a point that they actually, do you understand how angry they are that my point made sense and wasn't actually like incendiary? You know when people go, it's the way you phrase things, Thorin. I actually phrased this incredibly reasonably. I started with like a total admission of my own situation. Then I made it in the abstract. I made it as reasonable as possible. They still react the same no matter what. Why is this crook still relevant? Right, I am now a criminal because I have shit takes. People in Asia, you probably won't know if you read this thread, but believe it or not, they don't have great start times. I don't know what that have to do with it because the industry doesn't cater to them. And we totally never said anything or complained about it. Right? This thread isn't full of people complaining about the start times. All other threads have never had people complain about start. This is the first time ever I'm the first person ever to complain about a start time. No one Asian would do it because apparently Asians are just superior beings. They're just better than us guys. Europeans, we complain all the time. An entire thread of people, which was never about, is the time zone bad for you, complaining about it being bad for them in North America and Asia, proves that Europeans are just whiny little bastards who never shut the fuck up complaining, fucking self-obsessed arseholes. Man, I don't complain when grand finals are at 5 a.m. You're doing it right now. You went out of your way to complain about not even this tournament in this post. Just let us have one, right? Me saying the viewership will be worse by doing it this way is I'm actually denying him having this major. You know this major, the Perfect World Shanghai major, it's now no longer going to happen because I complained. And me complaining is actually a mouth-breather take, stopping the game growing in China. I'm the most powerful person to ever exist. Do you understand why I now say I am esports? Because me having like a bad tweet just butterfly affects the whole world. My fucking L takes go around the whole world to the extent that like I Thanos the world in esports and make it half as successful because I'm so short-sighted and you have to literally put me in a retirement home or, you know what, at this point in time, I probably just have to be killed in Minecraft. Otherwise esports could never be allowed to survive and thrive, right? He's right, but the only way to actually get that viewership is to host events and schedule them at times people will watch. Unsurprisingly, he has no points because that's just a totally logical thing to say. I stopped playing 5 years ago. Pause. Right, so it's a thread about viewing the major. So someone who we're supposed to believe in good faith is viewing this major comes in. I stopped playing the game 5 years ago. Right, let's just see what relevance is them not playing the game for 5 years going to have to the viewership of this major. Let's give him a chance though. I stopped playing 5 years ago, but this guy is still on his grind of being an insufferable prick. Jesus fucking Christ. Right, okay. So it's just a pure insult to me based on nothing I said. Because he doesn't play for 5 years, why am I still an insufferable prick by saying I think it's better if the viewership is maximised by holding it in the region best for the most viewers? What a prick, eh? I can't believe I'm still doing that because that's directly correlated with him playing. It makes it weirder that I'm still commenting reasonable things about the viewership because he doesn't even play CS anymore and he's commenting now 5 years later. What? What? Think this is a shit take? Football fans here in India, right? We've done the whole world now, guys. We've done Brazilians, North Americans, people from Mongolia, Asia in general, but then the Asian countries that actually magically don't get catered to, but then all of Asia is one region. They all start at this time anyway, and then they all watch it, but then they also have bad viewership. And Indians now. Let's just put everyone in the whole, fuck Europe. Why doesn't every poster say fuck Thorin, fuck Europe, and fuck him killing CS and esports? I find it so funny, Europeans crying when we Asians watch big CS all night. Opening post, I'm totally fine in League of Legends, a game where it makes sense to, having bad start times. That's me crying about having bad start times by saying I'm totally fine with them, if it makes sense. That's me crying about them. Yeah, probably pulls less viewers, but hey, it's not that bad. What does that even mean? What does that even... We're only talking about the context of more viewers being good. Yeah, I mean, I guess it will just have less viewers, which is the only metric that matters. But hey, that's not bad. But why? I've just said it's not bad. End of story. Case closed. No, what would the mechanism be as to what makes it not as bad, though? I just said it's not bad. So just let it go. Here's another good one. This is incredible. Shanghai people are the ones that actually paid to watch these games. First of all, the people of Shanghai who bought a ticket didn't even come close to touching the sides of the costs of putting that event on. Do you know who the event's actually held for? I'm going to really blow your fucking mind right now. It's not held for the people inside the physical venue. They are thousands of people. It is held for the checks notes, potential millions of people watching online. It's an online sport. That is almost by definition the stupidest way to phrase it imaginable. Because by his logic, essentially, as long as people pay, bad scheduling. So, okay, are you ready? I'm going to immediately one-up him. Let's hold every event in Dubai and charge $10,000 a ticket. Now, if even one person pays, hey, they paid $10,000, shut the fuck up, let them watch the game. They're paying. You're not paying anything, he's paying. As per usual, Thorin with the fancy lol ref. Because I mentioned League of Legends. I'm all for donking on brain dead commies. Pause. I'm going to guess the rest of his sentence implies he doesn't understand that commies can ever exist outside of the concept of Karl Marx. I'm all for dunking on brain dead commies, but I'm not sure the Shanghai major scheduling is really being influenced by that. Right. I nowhere here suggested that the major is being scheduled for communist reasons. I said that commie bullshit is where you, a random second independent person, pretend everyone is owed equal representation. I can't be more explicit than literally writing the fucking words. But what that actually said is miss me with commie bullshit, which is scheduling. That's what I said. How about us in NA? The whole thing's about them. We Asians usually watch at 3 a.m. Boo-hoo, I stayed up the whole night. Right, so I'm the one having a tantrum and a man-child, but your response to, this doesn't make sense for the industry and will actually harm the main financial and economic metrics which show success in CS. Boo-hoo, get an alarm. Is 10 a.m. that bad? You're so fucking Eurocentric. What is a good time for everyone, right? Now the premise I'm saying is you can have a time zone that's good for everyone, and if you can't, then it doesn't matter about catering to the one that's the best. Never do triage. So if you're a doctor and you could only deal with 3 people now, but there's 10 people need help or they'll die, don't deal with any of them because you can't save all 10. Let all 10 die because you can't save all 10. Or if you were going to save 3 people, just save them arbitrarily. Don't pick the most important 3 to save that have the worst possible situation and are the most savable. Just pick any random 3 because that's the only possible solution. Again, I'm the stupid idiot having tantrums who doesn't understand anything as an L takes. These are the smart people breaking this down for us. It's practically impossible to satisfy everyone in every continent. I'd like to hear what time he'd propose, right? Do you want to know the best part? It's practically impossible to satisfy everyone in every continent. My opening post, I understand, I'm going to rephrase it. I understand that when events take place in Asia, because China and Korea have giant viewership in League of Legends, that will have to be the one that you schedule for because that's the more important region. So therefore, I understand that you can't have perfect scheduling everywhere. That's why I have bad scheduling in Europe for League of Legends. But in CS, it's different. So that's why this is bad scheduling for the biggest fan. Even though I explained that, I don't understand that it's impossible to help everyone. I'd like to hear what time he'd propose. Not 10 a.m. But your logic is, because there isn't a perfect time, any time I give will be absurd. Now, why yours arbitrarily is good, we don't know. You're a moron. The insane entitlement blows me away. Other places exist. Opening post. Because China and Korea exist and have more viewership, I'm fine with them being catered to. Dude, you know other continents exist. Bloody hell, will you get out? Will you bloody learn not to be Eurocentric? You know other places exist, sir. Right, here's a good one. I've been watching CS on and off for about 10 years. Honestly, didn't even know there was a major happening right now. Unfortunate. But people who live in China, who aren't even in Shanghai, just are going to find out through the ether this event's happening and just tune in and then become CS fans. He's a real hardcore fan. He didn't even find out through all the Western methods, the client, fucking posters, Reddit. He didn't even know there was one going on. Waking up and watching your favourite game at 10 a.m. is absurd. It is. That's why people aren't going to do it, and provably the viewership is lower. Why are they gaslighting us that I'm the only weird one that doesn't get up at 10 a.m., guys, and watch all these, even though that's never what I was talking about. All the people who are missing, and we all know they're missing, they're absurd too. Therefore, it didn't happen. And since they're wrong, the viewership's fine. It's actually just all going to be about me again. Is his lifestyle... But yeah. My argument that says I'm fine for League is actually that it's ruining my lifestyle and I can't wake up at 10 a.m. That's all I was saying in the post. Or does he think the biggest audience really sleeps past it? By definition, quite literally, they don't sleep past it, but by definition, the biggest audience doesn't watch at 10 a.m. We can prove that using websites like ES Charts. He refuses to. By the way, all he'd have to do to make me look like an absolute twat is just link to a thing and show, look, I can prove the viewership's just the same. Everyone else except dickhead Thorin gets up at 9 a.m. He's the only one who can't wake up at 10. Why isn't he doing that? All right, because he can't. We live in GMT plus 8 or GMT plus 7, so you're not the biggest audience then. Imagine that. So he pretends to care about the biggest audience, then it's all just about him again. It's all about him and when he saw the events. Right, are you ready? This is another good one. Thousands of people showing up to group stage games. By the way, they just don't allow live audiences for other group stages at other majors. We're all just now going to pretend in other countries they'd have never had an audience there. They didn't allow it, so we couldn't even try. Now, what's weird is, elsewhere, you have to just try things randomly, even if they fail, to allow growth. But we don't do that for other majors. Let's just ignore that and pretend that all majors had totally open live viewership. No one ever came in Europe and North America. But then in China, because they're superior human beings genetically, they came along and watched it, so they deserve their major. So thousands of people showing up to group stage games, players getting mobbed at the airport to sign autographs, and people still think there isn't a shitload of people in chat. That's the maddest comment of all time. Right, so cause thousands of people turned up to the games and players are getting mobbed, there's actually shitloads of people, then why am I complaining? The viewership numbers will bear that out and they'll be higher, right? Every event should now be in China. That's the argument, right? Magically, he just so happens to have the Greyhound logo from Oceania. They're all just dickheads disguising their own annoyance of when other events aren't at their time through a disingenuous argument, perverting what I said to pretend I just said only I should never have to wake up at 10 a.m. and everyone else in the world is waking up at that time. Is this some kind of EU malding? I'm too NA to understand. Yeah, this whole thread didn't have any North Americans complaining just about them having a hard time waking up. Proper 19th century, by the way, he's actually implying colonialism here. Proper 19th century European mindset, right? In the 19th century, they would have said, I'm totally cool with things being made to actually be catered to people in Asia because I'm not as important. Yeah, that's a really 19th century mindset, that, mate. Asians are waking up this time. Oh, why are you putting 3 different times there, mate? I've been told elsewhere Asians all wake up at the same time. It's weird because the one that wakes up at 3 a.m. in the time zone that's like 4 hours before, there won't be a match. Then the one that's in Shanghai, he'll be watching the match. But hey, I'm surprised people can still see his tweets because he blocks everyone. If you don't know, by the way, I unblocked something mental like everyone except like 100 people or something mad. But no, as usual, just make that up. Let's just make up what... Even though this whole thing's about viewership, hey, he blocks everyone on Twitter. I'm surprised you can all see the tweets, even though there's a literal screenshot is the linked one. It's not even linked to my tweet. So presumably he didn't even look at the original post. Imagine complain. I'm not complaining. Then what? Right. You know when the viewership's lower, the answer isn't schedule in a place where the viewership be higher. It's just tell everyone who didn't watch the VOD later, fucking idiot. And that makes me the man-child having a tantrum, by the way. Thorin and bad takes, name a more iconic duo. Reddit and disingenuously lying about everything to seem right. What a little baby. CS is a global game. If it's a global game, then why do you need to expand it out in all the regions? Is it a global game or has it not yet expanded? Which is it? It can't be both. Asia needed some love. Wait, it's a global game. So no, Asia's already got, it's a global. So why don't it need love? It's already massive. And look at the turnout at the event. By the way, if Asia's so massive, where are the teams? You got 1 billion people. You haven't even got one team that can make top 16. Sounds like no one gives a fuck about CS there, mate. Asian fans loving the event, not the ones that watch online, which is the main people that matter. This dude constantly bitching. Games don't start till 10 p.m. on the Northeast. Quit crying. He says as he literally squeezes a cry about only his time zone into his cry about me crying. Saw the first word of the title. Instantly I knew it would be bars. Thorin is the living example that the phrase throw enough shit at the wall and eventually some of it will stick isn't true because he's now implying I'm never right ever. He's been waffling for years and hasn't had a good opinion once. Right, I have never in 23 years ever had a good opinion ever. Not even by accident. I can't even just throw shit at a wall and ever have it stick. Thorin is crying as always. Events are always at the worst time for NA. He says, crying immediately, and then in the same sentence going, and none of us bitch about it. You just did there. Why couldn't you just say, hey, you're complaining about your region, not mention you and your experience? Oh, it's not crying when you do it, of course. Boo fucking who? By the way, they're even simulating crying. The amount of EU fans I've seen crying their eyes out is unbelievable. As an NA watcher, I will now cry. It's a fucking miracle if we get events. Yes, do you know what? It's even worse for you North Americans. You come from the region that invented Counter-Strike, that used to be the #1 esports region, that had the best viewership relative to how much it was worth, and is the biggest money market in esports. And you're so fucking shit at what you do, Counter-Strike is withered on the vine and is irrelevant, and so is League of Legends. It's even worse, you fucking dunces. You had everything and fucked it up. And now you're complaining about this. You moron. Also, when you go as an NA watcher, do you know the difference between someone who lives in fucking Ireland and someone who lives in Russia with time zone, you cretin? It's not the same one. There's no Europeans, is there, you dunce? Not only is this extremely good for Asian viewer base, which will in turn bring up the hype around CS further, pause, citation needed. But it's a good thing in general to have events being held around the globe. Citation needed. Why is it a good thing? By the way, do you know the Monaco Grand Prix, where it takes place in Monaco all the time? Wouldn't it just be better if it was held in a different place around the world? Because then it'd just be like around the world and be global. What do you mean you want it in Monaco again? Wouldn't it be better if we just had it around the world? Why do you want it in Monaco all the time? Or do I need to give reasons for things? And his argument, again, this is going to be amazing, because they're now going to pretend I don't know anything about League of Legends. I run, by the way, the most viewed, longest running, best podcast in the history of League of Legends. It's been running for 10 years, called Summoning Insight. And his argument about League of Legends is horrendous. It's not even just wrong, it's horrendous. As League does not have the amount of tournaments CS does. So that would make it even worse for Europeans if the event that's the biggest one was held in our wrong time zone, right? 2 domestic tournaments in each region, which should be catered to their regions. That's not even true. You know, he goes 2 domestic tournaments, right? This year in Europe, there were 3 splits. But he's a moron from America, so he doesn't even know that. So as usual, he's talking out of his arse. He doesn't even know about my region while telling me about my region in the league. And also, they had 3 splits and the season finals. And 2 internationals that switch locations every year around the globe. That's because they have a global game in that game. For Worlds this year, in the last 2 MSIs, the games have been at 1 to 5 a.m. for nearly all of them. He doesn't even put a time zone. He doesn't even put a time zone. You know why it's 1 to 5 a.m.? Because he's in North America. But he's so stupid, he's saying 1 to 5 a.m. as if everyone in the West was up at 1 to 5 a.m. It was starting at 10 a.m. for us, by the way, in the West. And this guy's bitching about a 10 a.m. I'm not. I wasn't. And then he proceeds to bitch about 10 a.m. himself. Here's a good one. I wonder when this sub will ignore the existence of this racist C word. Says someone unable to ignore the existence of this racist C word on this sub, therefore invalidating his own point. That's the only way he gets attention, saying dumb shit. He said, giving me attention while saying dumb shit. Even though if that was the only way, you could just end it once and for all and just starve me of attention. The local start time is always 11 a.m. Thorin. Only in non-majors will you see them adjusted to capture. Right, so I'm a moron because the local start time of majors is always at 11 a.m, even if it's bad square brackets. It's only other events that actually adjust it and then capture all the EU and American audience. Well then, can we just do that? No, because it just always has been done that way. No reason, but just always has been. You schedule for the crowd at the venue. This entire thread was people telling me that's not what happens. That they have events in different places. Someone even said in League where they schedule based on European times too. And then when they have them in Brazil, they schedule based on European times too. But no, let's just lie and gaslight a 20-plus year veteran who was an OG from esports that actually events have always been this way, and therefore it's a good thing. It's always been this way. I'm Asian. If only there was a massive growing market of esports consumption. Pause. You think if I come back in 5 years, China's giant in CS and they were all right? Oh, no, they weren't. Love Thorin, but what a ridiculous L take. What an obnoxious take. Where is the proof that people in local time zone don't like the schedule. Right. My comment now about having max viewership is actually that I have to prove that the people who are Chinese locally don't like this time zone. Otherwise, what I've said is irrelevant. Thorin is a really selfish person when he opens his mouth nowadays. First post, I can handle start times not being ideal for me and being ideal for other people if they're more important in terms of scheduling for the viewership. Wow, it is all just about you. You are really selfish, says a guy refusing to read what you said or understand what you said and just crowbar it into what he wishes you said so he could insult you on the internet. Literally, the cancer, right? Figuratively, but he means that I am literally cancer to the British CS scene. I'm not even in the British CS scene. I have never been in the British or UK CS scene. I've never even been to an I-series. I don't ever go to any of those epic lands. I know nothing about the UK scene except maybe G3, that's it. Feels bad for 3 Clicks Philip to be in the same country as that piece of subhuman shit, right? I am cancer and subhuman shit. And he feels bad that 3 Clicks Philip has to be in the same country. I haven't lived in the United Kingdom since 2017. That is in the last decade. 3 Clicks Philip doesn't live in the same country as me. Now, I'm a subhuman piece of shit cancer, and he feels bad for 3 Clicks Philip. 3 Clicks Philip, I would allege, runs a second account called Fartmaster, where he literally has videos called farting on soiled underwear and things like that, and farting on a woman, and he pushes a woman onto a bed and farts on her. He takes out some dirty underwear and farts into it and smells it. Like an actual pervert. That's who 3 Clicks Philip is, I would allege. But no, he's the wonderful messiah who's totally normal and cool, and I'm the weird cancer, subhuman piece of shit. This guy just can't stop complaining. He says in a giant thread where they all go out of their way to misinterpret intentionally what I say so that they can complain. Literally Keemstar Counter-Strike. All I am is Keemstar Counter-Strike doing drama alert. The fact he's still relevant in 2024 is insane. Everything's insane, bro. Everything's insane. Everything's insane. They say no man is an island. We all need people who've got our back. And supporting me and the content on my channel are the following people: Matt Pugnatio Rajcula, The Concept, Animosity, Banediesel, Ben Glass, Jasun, Jensen Goh, Tosh, Thooorin, and you know it. Always a special thanks goes up to my main man, Jerky's Minion. Do you want to ask a question for my video AMA? Do you want to take part in one of those lengthy discussions where I talk about whatever topics are on your mind? Do you want teasers, find out who the upcoming guests are, or maybe even to suggest a guest or a topic for my content? If any of those perks or others catch your fancy, well, put your money where your mouth is and join the Illuminati today, where? In the Patreon link in the description box below.